Good evening, Wakefield. I call this town council meeting of January 12th at 7:01 to order. I ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I am joined by all my fellow town councilors and town administrator Casey. Moving on to public participation. Anyone in the studio for public participation? Anyone on the Zoom link, Sherry, for public participation?
Hi, Mary. Nobody's on tonight.
Okay, great. Item 5, we had a public hearing scheduled for 7:03, but they have asked it to, for us to take a vote to continue it until January 26th. Do we have to vote
So my understanding is we have to open the hearing and then vote to continue.
Okay.
Sorry.
No.
But it is 7:03.
It is
Madam Chair.
7:03.
So I would move to open the public hearing for Nava Durga Enterprises, Inc.
Second.
Great. Motion seconded. If everyone's here, can I just do, or do
I think for hearing you have to do a roll call.
Oh, you're killing.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Counselor Fox.
Yes.
Counselor Chrisley.
Yes.
Counselor Kunstler?
Yes.
Counselor Butler?
Yes.
Counselor Tynes?
Yes.
Counselor Carney?
Yes.
And myself, yes. The public hearing is open.
Madam Chair, I move to continue the public hearing, again with apologies, to January 26, 2026 at 7:30 p.m.
Second.
Great. Counselor Fox?
Yes.
Counselor Chrisley?
Yes.
Counselor Kunstler?
Yes.
Counselor Butler?
Yes.
Counselor Tynes?
Yes.
Counselor Carney?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you. So we'll add that to the agenda for our next meeting.
Do I need to? No, we've continued the hearing. I don't need to close it, right? Excellent.
Item 6A, Town Council Policy Revision, the kiosk policy.
Good evening, everyone.
Evening.
Jennifer McDonald, Communications Director. I have a deck. So I know that over the last year or so, the council has been going through all of its policies to see if any need revisions. So I proactively reached out to the chair and said when the time came to review the kiosk policy, as the person who executes on it, I do have a few suggestions for your consideration, and that's why I'm here tonight. Oh, it's behind me. Okay, sorry. Okay, so just for a little bit of background, there's 4 kiosks that were donated by an organization called Wakefield Main Streets in 2018, just before I started. They're at Main and Water, Main and Albion, the Town Common, and Vetsfield. Just after they were installed, this council, a different makeup of this council, created a policy about the types of content that could be included. To put it very generally, it's to share news and events from local nonprofits and the town. I do have a quick formatting note. If you look at the original and the revised in your packets, you're going to think that I changed the entire policy. Just to note that our town administrator has a new template so that all of our policies moving forward are uniform. So I have done a lot of formatting and rearranging. My suggestions to you are very minor. Okay, so the first one is that we now have screens in Town Hall, in the Senior Center and the Civic Center. And I digitize all of the content that is in the printed posters and I rotate them on the screens. So I think it makes sense to include the digital screens in the policy. They were installed after it was adopted. The original policy has people submitting their requests via email. Since the time that the policy was adopted, we've created an online form, so simply I suggest that we update that. There is a paragraph in the original about the fact that we will take what I'll call filler content from the Wakefield Main Streets organization. The organization, from what I understand, is no longer active, and I haven't received content from them in many years, so I suggest that we eliminate that paragraph. The current policy requires 30 days advance notice for someone to submit a poster. The reality is, I don't think I've ever had that much lead time. These are usually just nonprofits run by volunteers doing the best that they can, and I'm happy to get their content when they get it. So I have changed that from 30 days to 15. I also would like to relax the hanging schedule. The current policy indicates that the public works crews will go out every Monday and hang the posters. Reality is they sometimes have other priorities. They're the same folks who are salting and sanding our buildings. And I've found in practice, they really only need to go out about every 2 weeks. So I've adjusted that to say based on their availability. And the final one is we allow what I'll call a full-size takeover size, which is like a 3 feet by 4 feet poster, which I found a little curious because I don't have the capacity to print a nice shiny poster at that size. So I suggest we eliminate that paragraph. If you're interested, over on the right, you'll see some of the posters that are up right now. And then the final changes I suggest are nature of advertised events, which basically outline the things that we would not feature in the kiosks. One of those things is business promotion. However, there are times when a business might rent space in one of our public buildings, like the Albion Cultural Exchange, like the Civic Center, where you could go and maybe do a fair or an expo type thing. So after speaking with our town administrator and our chair, we decided that it seemed reasonable if a business was hosting an event in a public building that did not require any tickets, that we would allow that. And the final one is to prohibit individual fundraisers. So this may be someone who's doing a charity walk, who is looking for someone to fundraise for their personal fundraising goal, or GoFundMes are everywhere, and they range from someone who may have a medical condition all the way to please fund my dream vacation to Europe. I don't think that was the spirit of the policy, so just to eliminate any gray area, I thought it would be good to explicitly add individual fundraisers. And that is all. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you so much. Do you want to ask your question, Councillor Carney?
It's going to come out, but I'm criticizing, but I'm not. And it doesn't involve these particular, but we have a kiosk at the head of the lake, a wooden one. Mm-hmm. And it's not really maintained in the same way. But the maintenance, last time I looked, left a lot to desire. And if we're going to have something that has a town of Wakefield on it, I would maybe possibly look at it, spruce it up a little bit.
Sure. So a couple years ago, those used to have glass on them. And we took the glass off because, one, people started taping things to the outside of the new ones, lost dog, that kind of thing. And there was also tape all over the wooden ones. So it led us to believe that there was a need for a true community pin board where people could put up yard sale, lost dog. And I think when that first started, crews used to go around maybe once a month to clean them all off. If that's not happening, we can for sure make that happen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you want to add anything about just the new format that you're using for policies?
Sure. So when looking at the structure of the policies, it's best practice to have the same format for different policies. Not all of the titles, what's the purpose of the policy, who is the policy eligible for, who enforces the policy, what the mission of the policy is in the statement, dated and signed, I think is really important too, because sometimes you come across a policy and there's no signature, no date, no revision date. So it's like, okay, is this the most recent policy? Is this the most recent policy? So in working, with Jen and with you at the format, I think this is a good format for us to use for policies moving forward.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Butler?
Sure. I know, as John said, there's the one at the head of the lake. Are there other kiosk posts in other parks?
So there's one at Vets Field.
Okay.
There's one at the town common real close to Church Street. Then there's one on the sidewalk at Main and Albion. And there's one on the sidewalk right outside the parking lot at Main and Water.
Yeah.
You're asking about wooden ones? or
Wooden
electric?
ones,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
Wooden,
No,
not the
wooden ones.
electronic
Yes,
ones.
there's one at Vets Field. There's one way down by where they launch the boats on the town common.
Okay.
And there's one at the bend near Cumberland Farms, Main and Lowell.
Do they still need to exist?
So
Do we
the
think we
idea
need
was
those
those
still?
were community boards. When
Right.
people had lost dogs, when people had, maybe some concerts or something that were out of town, they could pin them up.
We can go see how relevant and
Just
how
thinking
useful
about
they
like,
will be. Yeah,
the notion of signs and everything, we could just take them down probably.
True.
we'll take a look at that. Thank you.
We found a need. People were putting up lost dog yard sale, those sorts of things. But yeah, it'd be good just to check out to see if they're still being used and if we need that many
Sure.
around.
They
primarily-
pre-existed these
right,
ones, yeah.
Right. And I feel like we had a big discussion about why we kept them. But it's been 6 years, so maybe it's 7 years.
I think that part of the reason we kept them is I think they were originally installed by the Friends of Lake Quannapowitt. So we felt, kind of as a town that we wanted to, sort of respect the, the group that kind of fundraised them and, fundraised for them and had put them up. I candidly don't notice the ones that are kind of on the common side of the lake, at Vets Field and by the common. I will say the one at the bend, when I do go by that, it seems like that one does have materials in it. I mean, almost every day.
Materials being like posted things or like trash.
No, like the lost dogs or,
okay.
the stuff that we don't post in our own kiosks, the fundraiser for whatever.
Anything else? I just want to thank you for working on this policy and also let people watching or people inquiring, they can always reach out to you if they have questions.
Absolutely.
And you work with all the other departments. So you work on if there's an event at the senior center that we want to promote or the rec center. And so you kind of have all the information and you work with the library. And so if people have questions, they can reach out to you.
Yes, please reach out.
Yeah, and I didn't know, I didn't notice until recently, like the digital ones inside town hall. I was like, oh, hadn't noticed that in a lot of time. So those are great too, because they have, they match what's going on outside.
Yep.
Okay, do I have a motion for this latest policy?
Yes, Madam Chair, move to adopt the amended kiosk policy as presented.
Second?
Great. Any further discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 6B, the dog park update.
Dennis, you're on one. What?
And just to clarify, we didn't label this correctly. It is actually not about our dog park. It is about dogs in our parks.
Correct.
Yes.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
so I guess I'll start. Obviously, Dennis, Forestry Park Cemetery Supervisor. So, over the last few years, we're really seeing a big problem with dog owners not doing the respectful thing. So, each park, each baseball field has become its own individual dog park, per se. And they're not leashing and they're not picking up. That's a pretty broad statement to say they are not all picking up. But at Sullivan, in the morning and the afternoon, there's upwards of anywhere from 8 to 15 dogs running around. So typically when I approach them, it's the other group. The morning group says it's the afternoon people not picking up. The afternoon says it's the morning people. I think this is basically a step one to kind of take back control. So obviously, I'm a dog owner. I love dogs, but I mean, we know we don't want to just come down with an iron fist from leniency to full blown. But what we do need, and we've been talking to recreation, and just to put it in perspective, I mean, it's not fair to the users of the parks. I mean, like I said, and I'm going to talk about Sullivan and Moulton because those are probably my worst two. Sullivan is just absolutely covered with feces. So the baseball teams don't want to be there for that reason. Not fair to my crew, because when we go in, the equipment is there, they're weed whacking, they have to run home and get changed. It's just not fair. So So this is really step one. So what we want to do, obviously, is get, your approval. I know this was a discussion last year, and it kind of got tabled, and we got sidetracked a little bit. And I think we really need to not so much focus on, per se, size, color, how many. I think it's just we put them out at the fields as needed. If I need to put, 2 at each end at Narcella, if I need to put 1 at a visible spot at Moulton. Obviously, we don't want to distract from the beautiful parks, but we need to have something posted again, reminding them that there's already obviously a bylaws for leash and pickup. Then moving forward, continue to not conform. Then we go to the next measure and start, after warnings, we'll probably start doing a ticketing and fine. I think that would get the attention of people enough. And obviously, maybe once they see this and we start, realizing that this is a town-wide concern, then I think we'll get the respect that people are going to start doing the respectful thing.
Councilor Carney?
Yeah, this started when I received a message on Facebook from a mother down at Narcella Playground, and I concentrated on that. But after that, it's kind of, things just kind of rolled over, and leaders of sports teams in the town told me when they get down there lining the fields for soccer or other sports that they were dealing with it and watching people down there disregarding the fact that this is a play field for our youth, as well as using the child's cot areas as places for the dogs to leave their mess. And so the issue here is, I think it's bigger than we think. I think I think a lot of people in this town have been affected by it, and I think the police department ought to be involved in this as well. I think it ought to be a community thing. I think communications, Jen can get involved in this, getting the word out there. We're not trying to threaten dog owners. None of us are. And although there's a lot more dog owners in this town now than there ever have been, and it's very popular. And I appreciate the people that have love for their animals. But the bottom line is, when our kids go to a ball field to play ball or soccer, and they're avoiding droppings on the grass, it's a shame. Just so you know, Dennis, I brought this up at a prior meeting, and the pushback you got wasn't here. They're no longer here.
No,
and so I got plenty of support from both Jonathan and the chair. The fact that we want to straighten this out. We want to get the message out there. We're not against dogs. You can run your dogs any way you want, but if you're doing it in an area where Dennis has had employees threatened on the fact that they've asked them to do something, and all of a sudden people get angry like it's their own backyard. And so I think we have to handle this collectively as a community, not just Dennis or Public Works, but police, communications, get everyone together. And also, we had a little thing, and I kind of jumped the gun on this, but we did start something. I introduced Dennis to the principal of Cataldo Ambulance, and Dennis is going to keep contact with him, and Cataldo may contribute something to plans Dennis already has in places, or working on the capital planning committee to get money to fix Narcella Playground and other playgrounds after that. So the thought was that maybe we start off with Cataldo's and their generous offer to start it, and then kind of next time we have a playground come up, do we ask other people to come maybe join us and sponsor a cot area, or just like we do in the greenery areas, and the landscapers do a nice job around town, keep things nice. This might be someone put a little small plaque there that, this company contributed to this area. Yeah. And again, I'd leave it up to Dennis to meet with them in the future.
Yeah, so I mean, and this also kind of stems back when, Peter Maywood, big dog advocate, and we talked about the lack of a dog park in town. So that was originally going to be a twofold. That was going to be our segue into controlling the stuff that's going on at the ball fields and give them a place to openly run. And now what's happened is the dog park is one group, and there's a community at Sullivan, and when they're all just standing in a circle and the dog's 100 feet away running around. And the other part too is, I mean, there's actually a financial value. After it rains, the dogs are running not on a leash going through the clay, and that clay is, at some of the fields, the better clay, that's about $26,000. So they run through it, make big wet footprints. That dries the next day. It takes the crew twice as long to groom that out, so the balls aren't ricocheting and hitting kids in the face and stuff. So it's man hours, it's disrespect to the investment that we have. So it's like I said, this is step one, and I think people leashed are going to be more apt to pick up as opposed to standing here and having the dogs run around out in the outfield when we watch them dig and do all the wrong things that they should be doing. So we just want to start here, get full support, get some signs up, and then obviously, like I said, we can get some community blasts out there to say that this is coming, and we're going to take back, on a happy side and see how that goes. And then when we get pushback, if we do, then obviously it becomes a police matter. I mean, we did have an incident down the cemetery this summer. It was unfortunate, and same thing. There's no dogs allowed there. It's a rule. We've had patrons over there. They've been very respectful, and then we've had some that weren't, and it was a loose one running around. Patron got bit. My staff went to help them. They got bit. It was a police, and so then at that point, it's a clearance sale. We had signage, absolutely under no circumstances a dog allowed. So, that's the worst case scenario. But obviously, we don't want to see that happen, and certainly not at a ball field. So that's why I think we need to start with the basics. And it's already a law, bylaw that we have. So we're not reinventing, we're not starting out with anything new here. It's a bylaw, it must be leashed, must pick up after the dog, and we'll get these people to remind it, and there's consequences if we don't.
Dee, did you just want to, I know you've had some conversations. Was there anything you wanted to add?
So one of the things that I noticed, we have this very nice brochure that we have, and I'll be speaking with the town clerk tomorrow about can we put literature in with the dog licensing information. But I think, communication and education is key. And that's where you want to start. But again, to Dennis's point, and he's also had staff that was bit, he just mentioned that. So that's a workers' comp employee safety issue for us. I think you start with education, and then if people are not willing to, comply, then we would need to start looking into more enforcement.
Let's start down there. Councillor Fox.
So I quickly pulled up the chapter that's on the sign. I see the penalty for not having a dog leashed escalating 50, 100, or more like that. But under solid waste excretion, there is no fine amount. So my first question is, should there be a fine amount? If you're catching someone, what should the penalty be for not picking it up? And second, who's going to enforce that chapter? Is the dog officer? It can't be the DPW at the parks. Are you going to call a police officer? Like, who's going to do the enforcement?
Well, I mean, I think we're still kind of in the process of saying, we don't honestly say that we're going to necessarily, if we have response on either team, and obviously we would hopefully kind of know if it's somebody that's a repeat offender. And if it is at that point, then animal control wants to see police intervene. We also know that they're very busy, and I'm sure the police have bigger, important things to do. So, and I get that. I've talked to the police chief, but they are willing to, but they also want to know, like everyone wants their bases covered. So they want to make sure that there's signage. Is it clear? Is it visible? Is it well-known? Was there an outreach? Is there? Now we can say now that people are just being adamant. And, I mean, whatever it is, a $20 ticket. Usually any kind of ticket is enough to raise an eyebrow and get people upset.
Councilor Fox, to that point too, I wonder if there are people out there that don't even know that this is a thing. So hopefully that, strategically placed, whether it's by the gate or, somewhere where you're taking whatever you pick up and throw away, they might at least be able to read that and, the light bulb will go off and go, oh God, I didn't know. So,
I think it's a great idea. I love the plan. I want it enforced. I just don't know who's the one to enforce it. I've been to Moulton Park. I've been to Sullivan. I played kickball at Sullivan. It's gross. So I totally get it. I just want the enforcement to follow it. Signs are great. I think that next step, maybe we throw a fine on if they don't clean it up, because it's not one listed here currently.
It's my understanding that animal control would be responsible for that. Currently, animal control falls under the town administrator's direct control. That's something that we're looking at. Typically, it falls under the health department or public safety. I've had a conversation with the chief, and there's a lot of reasons why you usually don't put it under public safety. One being the accreditation process. It creates a lot of additional work for the accreditation process. Next week, I'm meeting with the mayor of Melrose and the town administrator in Stoneham to look at a regional arrangement. Unfortunately, our animal control officers resigned. And so right now, currently, we do not have any. Dennis and Liz and I have been acting as the animal control officers temporarily, but they are also looking for animal control support. So hopefully we can do something regionally. The current agreement that we had was with us in the town of Reading. It's my understanding that Reading is still continuing to use those two individuals, and they have decided to, I guess, continue to work for Reading. So this gave us the opportunity to look at the memorandum of understanding, try to better understand animal control and what's being done. And with that information, we'll meet next week and try to come up with a better solution to the issue. We need more enforcement and we need more monitoring. And so those will be two issues that I will definitely get into the next memorandum of agreement.
Councillor Chrisley.
Well, this issue caught my eye because my kids just convinced me to get a dog before Christmas. So, really perked up my ears here. My only comment was, it sounds like you've got a serious, public health issue with that amount of animal waste collecting on public fields, which I can see is, pretty necessary to do some type of communication and education. On the sign, do we want to add what the base level fine is, just as a starting point to let people know what that initial fine would be?
I mean, we could. I mean, one way, I guess it doesn't matter other than it just makes the writing smaller and the sign's got to get bigger. And two, I think the big thing is that it just says punishable, which by fine, and that should be enough. If
Okay.
I don't know if we focus on whether it's 25, people might be willing to, play roulette. If it's only a $20 fine, if it's $1,500, maybe that's enough to get their attention. I don't know. I said, I think,
Right. I didn't want to send you back to the drawing board. I'm just wondering if
Yeah, more importantly, it's just let's start with the basics and get them up there. And
Okay.
I mean, like I said, a long time ago, we would just say, throw a sign up there and say, per DPW, and then if we got pushback, we deal with it then.
Right.
Right now, obviously, we want to make sure that it's all communal and it's on the
Right.
same page.
This sign was done as kind of visual aid for when this came up before, but if the council has any druthers one way or another, it's not a very hard lift for that to say whatever, or reference whatever the group chooses. So
Do we have disposal containers at these same locations for dog owners?
We do,
Okay.
year-round.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Butler.
Sure. I mean, I think the education piece is a bit ridiculous. Everybody knows you have to pick up after your dog. You just either choose not to, or I would wager in many of the instances, although maybe not at Sullivan, because once it happened, it's a broken window once it happened. I do think you probably need to. The problem is the poop. It isn't dogs being off leash. It's dogs crapping all over fields. It's not it's not them running amok, because again, it's not like people are going to take their dogs to Sullivan Field and walk them around the outfield on the leash. Let's think about what behavior are they going to have. They're taking their dogs out there to run. And there isn't right now, there clearly isn't enough space in terms of, yes, we do have the one dog park. I do think the dog park, the way it's situated, is not the best. It gets crowded with more than 8 or 9 dogs. Plus you don't have anybody who police it. You get every nasty dog in the world there, and all of a sudden you don't bring your dog to that park. I think the not picking up is the problem. Again, do I think this is, do I think we should need a sign? No. Do I think that having a sign might help it a little? do I think that if you start ticketing people, you're never going to ticket them for not picking up after their dog. You're always going to ticket for being off leash, which is probably, disproportionately or punishing the wrong crime there.
Actually, if I may, I think, to say that the bigger problem is the poop, the poop is a huge part of the problem, but actually the off-leash is, for us, is actually just as large of a problem, because they're running, they're not with the people, they're out in the distance, they're digging. So they're digging holes over at Sullivan all the time. So I think that just being leashed is going to be, the dog is going to be less apt to dig while the person's on the leash.
But they're not going to, nobody's taking the dog to the park and leaving them on the leash. It just isn't going to happen. So either they're going to not bring them to the park.
Well, that would be the obviously.
Right, and that's the question is then, if you're not going to have, and again, as, Councilor Carney said, more people have dogs. I bet you that the field at Nacella is used more by dogs than it is by people. Like, I would be in favor of turning Nacella into a dog park, but that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying, think about, we can put the signs up, but again, thinking about what's really going to be impacted here. Hopefully the signs change behavior. Hopefully people's behavior changes. But I don't think, look, we're not going to be able to, people who don't do it are not going to all of a sudden, it's not that they don't know. They know, and either they're just not catching it, or we haven't made it as convenient for them as we think we have. Like, do we have bags and stuff out there? I mean, what idiot
we don't have kiosk bags, but the barrels are out there.
The barrels are out there, yeah.
That's why we keep them there, so.
I think keeping the barrels there is a great idea. Again, Sullivan, and I don't know if you're going to be able to solve the Sullivan problem. It's probably that it's geographically just the most convenient place for people. And again, thinking about making residents' lives easier. I think we probably need to put some thought into where we want to have these people take their dogs. And that's not a solution that I think we have. So yeah, this is fine. You can do this, and I don't know that it'll have any impact at all, but it'll make us feel good.
Could we look into how much those stands that have the bags are?
No.
I would be curious about that. I think we need a little bit of a communications plan. And so hopefully we can work with Jen, and I think working with the town clerk, also getting information out to dog owners. The dog park was created in 2016, 2017. I don't necessarily know if we need another dog park, but I think that's a conversation we can have. I also think Councillor Fox, maybe updating those bylaws is something we look at for spring town meeting. So I'd love to work with people about that, and maybe upping the fines or being a little bit more explicit about what the fines are as we work on getting animal control, so it's not Liz, Dennis, and Dee doing our animal control.
Yeah, I don't want them getting bit.
I think doing, like, knowing that there's, trash cans at all these parks, which I know because at JJ Round I asked for a second one every summer because the first one fills up. I think getting some of those doggy bags will help. I think we do an education. I think the off-leash is a big deal. They dig up where they're not supposed to, but it's also unsafe when you have dogs going and biting people. And
one dog, 12 months ago, it's not like,
Well,
it's
actually,
not like dogs are running amok biting people.
No, but what happens is, it's very similar to a dog park. Okay, so you have 12 dogs running around at Sullivan.
Yeah.
They're familiar with them because they do it every day. When someone new comes to that, all 12 come rushing over. So I've had guys at Moulton, happened again this summer, happened last summer, happened twice at Nassau. And Sullivan, they all run over. We have to stop. We have to tell them to leash up while we bring the equipment in because we don't want to run over someone. But they come running over and they come growling my staff doesn't know if it's a friendly dog or not. They freeze, and they have to wait till the person comes over, and then to be smitten about it, say, well, if the dog was going to bite you, it would have bit you. That's all the stuff that we don't need to get involved
No,
with.
that's
So that's back to why it seems like common sense and basic to say we should leash up, and that's not going to cure the problem.
And I think I just want to, the other
Yeah.
question that came up during this, and I don't know if this would fall under matters to be discussed, but like, why did our animal control officers quit our town but not Reading? Like, why did they quit us and not Reading? So they didn't quit being animal control officers, they just quit us. Do we know why? Or did they give reasons why? Or did we ask them to leave?
I don't know if they gave reasons.
No, we did not ask them to leave. They just abruptly resigned. After I asked some pertinent questions about the memorandum of agreement.
You asked them. That's why they resigned. You know, you ask a question, they resign.
Depends on the question.
Well,
And depends on how much you cared about, like,
I'm suspect.
how much is your job,
I think, Madam Chair,
Yeah.
I bring this in, I don't think this is an effort that, is not worthy of our time, of putting our commitment behind the Department of Public Works, to get people to police it. I think it's a worthwhile effort because it's affecting the health of our children. We're sending kids down to that same field and they're dallying
John,
with.
people picked up after their dogs way less when we were kids than they do now.
There were less dogs when we were
But
kids.
there weren't that many
When I was kids,
dogs.
it was a lot less. So, I mean, I think the effort here should be a concentrated effort. And to the point, the fact that I understand why the police department is not the enforcer. But the police department can also support us.
Absolutely.
That there are things where when we have employees up there trying to do their job and they're being held back, and the police department has some time. And I realize they have priorities, that we all have priorities. But we also have priorities of keeping our parks clean. And I think Wakefield, Dennis, I compliment you. I think you've done a phenomenal job in this town. I did not personally, it's been a long time since I've been down on the sidelines watching the kids playing sports. I didn't know this was going on, and I certainly want to put my full support behind this and hope that everyone in the town, from the people who communicate to the public, to the law enforcement people, to the office of the animal control officers, I think everybody should put a concerted effort in this and at least embarrass people. The fact that, I mean, when I brought this up, I'm not going to do an actively here, but I can see someone as they're walking around the neighborhood when they're going to leave it, because they're looking around like this, holding the leash, and so, they're doing it purposely, and now those few people, if you're not going to educate them, you can embarrass them. Thank you.
Councillor Tynes.
Thank you. So thank you very much for the work that went into this, and thank you, Councillor Carney, as well, because I know you've really taken this and run with it. I think that the signage as part of a communication plan makes sense, so I'm very supportive of this. I think the sign design is fine. I don't think it needs to be changed. I don't know that I would put the dollar amount on it, only because if we did change it, you'd have to reprint signs, and that feels like a lot. My only request would be that as you think about placement of the signage, we're just responsive to, kind of the overall environment of each of the parks. So for example, at Moulton, we obviously wouldn't want signage that obstructs, views of the memorial trees or anything like that. But I trust that, you and your team will, have the right judgment to know, where we should be putting signs and how do we do so in a way where, people can see them, but they're not obtrusive to the things that we want people to enjoy.
Anyone else?
Do we need a motion for this?
I don't know.
This is something that we ought to give a little bit of latitude to the people who we hire to manage the town. Certainly you know, there's an understanding here that we want to reduce signs in town, okay? But we don't want to reduce signs that are affecting us or affecting things. But I think, I didn't hear anybody give permission for Dennis to put the sign up in the or you may have, but I didn't hear about it. The signs up in the cemetery, but I took that as protective. They're trying to do something to protect things here, and I think we ought to give you know, through D them some latitude here. Put signs up to ensure the public safety.
Any further discussion?
I agree. I mean, I think we've overmanaged signs as a council.
I agree too. I think that's fine to defer to DPW and to Dennis. I think what I will ask though, and I know it's wintertime, so it's a little off, but can we just like in 6 months give us feedback? Like, is it working as you create the communications plan, as you talk to Betsy? Are you seeing a difference? Because if it's not working, we want to hear about that. And I actually think, you know, I do think if we update the bylaw at Springtown meeting, so we'll have another conversation at town meeting about this. So even before, you know, it'll be in 5 months that we'll have an update would be great. But yes, we defer to the great staff and team and departments that we have. But we thank you for updating us on an issue.
Absolutely, yeah. No, so I mean, they're all great places to hang out and walk a dog, and we get that, you know. I mean, over the years, they seem to have been more respectful. So we had this similar thing back in 2000 with the charter change. Our athletic fields, the groups were kind of running amok, and we had to kind of pull them in a little bit and really set tight parameters on what was allowed, what was not allowed at ball fields, what was, you know, after rain dates and stuff. So it was more of an education thing, get everybody on the same track so that they know what's expected. It's the town's investment. So we're at a point now where it's just mushroomed. So basically out of control that we need to just, you know, step one, there, communication, community blast, some dog bags, get people to start thinking and positively to be respectful about it. And then we kind of go from there. We obviously, so.
I'd advocate, you know, step 2 being cameras and shaming on Facebook or on Instagram. Is like, is this your dog? So, you know, that's.
Or is this your human who didn't pick up on it?
Yeah. I mean,
The dog, it's not their fault.
And it is a different thing, you know, like we've been up here and we've discussed the goose control program. You've heard speeches at FOQ, and you know that excrement is 90% grass. So as much as it's a nuisance, doesn't have the same, you know, tenacity as what's in feces from a dog. So they are different, and they are both inconvenience when you're sliding into first base and you're stepping in it. But on a serious note, they are totally different. So there's a health value, and just in general. So I thank you for your support on this.
Thank
Thank
you.
Okay.
We're good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Moving on to item 6C, the American Rescue Plan Act.
Okay, thank you. So we have the team here, the whole team here tonight, to give an update on the ARPA Plan Act, where we're at and what we are still working on. So the format for tonight is we're going to look at the current status of our ARPA projects, update on projects that have been completed, and then the departments are going to present their projects. Okay. So again, this slide will look familiar. This is Wakefield's share of ARPA funding, countywide and for the town. So these were projects that were approved in November of 2022. And you'll see the first column is what was approved. The middle column is what has been spent. And then the final column is what is encumbered or under contract. So you will see that there are many projects, and some of these projects were already brought to you on the last update, at last ARPA update. We have DPW talk about the Lake Quannapowitt, but all of the other projects have been completed. Again, we're looking at another set of projects approved in November of '22. And again, all of these projects have been completed. Again, some of these were shown to you at the prior ARPA update. And the Inspire Cafe and the assessment of historic structures, again, that money has been expended, so those projects are done. Next, we have the Small Business Fund, which Erin and her team will be here to talk about that. And the Affordable Housing Trust, Marissa is here to talk about that. Again, all of these other projects basically have been all completely completed and funded. Again, more projects and more is done. All of these have also been completed. So now we would take you through the department presentations, and they will show you what some of this funding was used for. And our first is Department of Public Works. So Joe and Bill. And gentlemen, just let me know when you want me to advance the slides.
Thank you. Long time no see. Joe Conway, Public Works Director. With me, no stranger to this room, Bill Renault, our town engineer. Bill and I will kind of tag team this one. Up first, not as exciting as our last conversation, but definitely something that we needed. The West Ward roof. If you remember, we originally had some funds set aside for historic structure evaluation, stroke of luck or timing that we had. We basically had our fingerprints on a lot of historic things at that time, whether it be the bandstand or the Soldiers and Sailors Monument. As we were going through some of that, the condition of this roof prior to actually getting fixed, and particularly the chimney, was the worst roof in town. So we were very fortunate that the funds got reappropriated to this. The roof was completely stripped, redone, re-insulated, and then the chimney was repointed and made safe. This is probably one of the bigger ones outside of Bill's office that happened, tree plantings. So big push from the council, lots of support for increasing our public shade tree network throughout town. One of the things as these projects go on, once you basically plant it out, we had a lot of backlog of places where, for whatever reason, a microburst disease and whatnot, a tree had come down. But we have a forestry division of 3 people, so a lot of the stumps would always linger on, and it would kind of be catch-up work. The funds that we got for this allowed us to not only do all of the site prep we need to replant a lot of trees that were out there that needed to be replanted, but they also allowed us to free up some budgetary money, and that combined with the grant, we were able to do a complete inventory and digitize our assets. We'd come in here at budget time, and the question would come up sometimes, whether it be here or FinCom, how many public shade trees do we think we have? What's our network look like? There's always a guesstimation. So through this effort, we were able to actually identify 7,000 points. So in those points, new trees, existing trees, and then we also went out and we looked at areas that didn't have any trees and whether or not there was the potential for that to happen. And then we can use those vacancies that we've pre-identified as a target for Dennis to go out and evaluate where he's going to go with his seasonal round of plantings. Specifically in this, we were able to sink over 200 new trees directly funded through this. And over the last 4 planting seasons, between the efforts of Public Works and the Gas and Light Department, Wakefield has seen over 400 public shade trees actually get installed. So it's pretty impressive numbers there. And then this big topic of conversation that materialized actually from the council here, the solar at the Galvin. So a combination of funding largely through some ARPA. We were tasked basically to assist in putting out an RFP with former councilor and town administrator Mayo. That was out, a design was done, and the Galvin was selected for a solar array to be installed on the top of the building. Interestingly, so we currently get the benefit value of 2 that are on 2 public works buildings. This unit on top of the Galvin was 90% more powerful than what we have. So this is a big boy. This is something when the building was built, the roof was ready, solar ready for it. This is something that we were able to, through this process, take the next steps and actually get an array on that, which you'll see instant benefit value as far as electricity savings is concerned. Working on this throughout the year. It went live. Live is actually feeding back into the networks and saving us money 12/8/2025. And then we're working right now through the last couple of punch list things, some things with the roof warranty, turning that back on, and some of the paperwork associated. But we're looking forward to the warmer weather coming and this thing really picking up the rays and putting it to use for us.
A quick question on that. Sorry, the 18,000 pounds of
Yes.
carbon saved, is that just since
Yes.
December 8th?
Yep. So that's
Wow.
a live snapshot. So when we did this through this slide together for Administrator Casey, so there is an interactive web portal to this that if it's not live and shared yet, it can be. You can actually see what each panel is generating, and it'll give you a figure, CO2 emissions, equivalent trees planted, and then there's also a little widget in it that'll tell you that the power that is generated by the grid on top of the Galvin, how many miles of a vehicle that would equal to. And then on the right-hand side, I probably should have explained this, my apologies. That's kind of a breakdown by the days. So this will net each day. You'll see peak production for the day, the month, the year. It's a pretty cool analytic tool. But, this right here, 142 trees and 20
in
some
one
odd
month,
days.
in the darkest month of the year, is impressive.
Great point. So, we actually had winter return, here and there for that too. So, I think this time, next year, when it comes to town meeting time, if we reevaluate this and look at this again, those numbers will be pretty staggering.
Joe, who's the installer for the solar?
It was a company, so it went out to public bid, request for proposals. It was Select Energy. So they act as the GC. They have their own installers, electricians, and whatnot. Outside of assisting them along the way, Public Works' role really was to arrange for the roofing contractor to come out, and they do a pre-construction inspection of the roof. Any potential warranty when you do this type of work gets paused. Then they do post-construction, and then the warranty turns back on. So the time while they're doing that work in between doesn't count against you. You don't lose it. So we were just really handling some of that, coordinating some of the shutdowns and different things that they needed. But anything we could do to basically make sure this thing get pushed right along.
Do we have a warranty for the major components of the array?
There is. I know the inverters, which essentially are the brains behind these, wherever the power goes to, and then there's warranties on each one of the panels. The nice part is mechanical continuity with the two other systems we have. So it's something that we're familiar with. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I believe the inverters are 20-year warranties.
Okay.
And the panels are whatever the industry standard for panels are.
Right. Okay. Yeah, great project. Thanks.
This one, not really much frills, but there was a ask, I think it came under the Disability Commission?
It did, yes.
Yep, to get a swing for those that may be a little bit mobility limited. So we were very lucky. This tied in perfectly with a playground project that was approved by the Capital Planning Committee. The reason why the rear of the Dull Bear was selected at that time, if memory serves me correct, there were a couple of students that would directly benefit from this. Being out there with my little ones and actually getting to use it, it's actually pretty cool. The way that the whole thing works, there's one side for a bench, and there's the other side for a chair or whatever device may need to be secured in that, so that the kids can all take part together. So that was installed beginning of the summer. With everything else that was going on there. Pretty self-explanatory for that one. I'd recommend checking it out if you haven't seen
Just a
it.
quick question back on the Galvin. Galvin cost, the solar array cost like about $1 million roughly, ballparking.
Correct.
Okay. And then do we know how much energy the Galvin uses in a given year?
So
Like
TPW,
what's that 11%?
TPW, we don't pay the electric bill there.
So we don't know how much it consumes.
We can get it.
Because again, like the carbon capture, 18,000 pounds sounds like a lot, but that's like maybe $400 in terms of carbon offsets.
Yeah, no, these things provide the greatest amount of value if they produce the electricity you're using. Even the paybacks to them, you know, in a perfect world like the ones on our treatment plants, the best benefit to us is what we actually generate and consume ourselves. I don't have that number with me. I can give it to you, though. It would be included in the bid documents. If not, I can get the bills for you to tell you.
Yeah, no. It was just it was just trying to get a sense of what our savings is versus what it total costs. Now, granted, a lot of it was picked up by grants and ARPA and everything else, so that was a great benefit to the town. Overall, economically, I'm not so sure, but that's fine. Somebody else is picking up the tab and figuring out better ways to make solar work. But I'm like, you know, I don't want us to think we should be doing this everywhere.
No, I mean, the payback is definitely a big consideration with it. We've been very fortunate to this point. So the two that we had preceding this were completely funded through outside funding, so the payback was immediate. And then, you know, hopefully this situation is something that pays its dividends early and often and continues for quite a long time.
We did have a payback estimate when we did the project. I don't remember what it was, but I'm sure.
believe it was
Yeah, no, I don't
believe it
think,
was-
I don't want the payback estimate of the people who were selling you the system. I want to know what's the difference in what we're actually using and spending.
As we get some more longitudinal data through this, we'll be able to then directly compare that.
Cool. Oh, I'll jump in. Yeah, so there we go. Hey, folks. So sidewalk extensions. So we got 2 phases of funds from you folks for sidewalk extensions. This equated to about 2 miles of new sidewalks installed throughout town. First phase was completed last fall between a standalone sidewalk bid and then dovetailing some of the funds into our roads bid, which we were doing some road work on the same street. And then our second bid that we completed was last year for 2025, which we completed in towards the end of September. We still have a little bit of loam and seed work to be done, but for the most part, we are completely paid out on that project. Lake paths. This was a late addition to the ARPA tree. So if you recall, we had some erosion towards the end of Beacon Street. The top right-hand corner shows a photo of the erosion that was happening routinely. We came up with a design to add some swales and then to kind of clean up the area and improve some of the lakeside path with some tripping hazards as well. That was all completed in October of this year. Hall Park bathroom is our main ongoing project right now. So we have released the building for manufacturer back in the fall of 25. I am working on delivery dates now, but we're looking about late spring, early summer for this. We also have utilities that'll be started. So we're going to do some of this work internally with our water and sewer group to get that moving ahead of the bathroom deliverable. I'm expecting site construction in the foundation to begin somewhere in the spring. Probably mid-spring is what I'm thinking, for an occupancy in the fall of this year. Rail to trail and vision design, $1.1 million for that. Yeah, I gave you an update on this a few months ago. Essentially full steam ahead on this project. So this is handling 2 sections, the rail to trail and the Envision South section. We are at 25% design submittal right now, which is being finalized as we speak. We'll be looking for the 25% design hearing in the spring of this year, as we talked about previously. And right now we are programmed for a fiscal 28 roadway project and a fiscal 30 rail to trail project. They're in the process now of updating the tips, so we'll see where we slide with the fiscal 28 road portion. That may dial back to 2030 as well, but we're working on that with the folks at the state to keep that on the tip.
Any questions for DPW before we move forward to the senior center?
Just one question. Are we still slated to do the parking lot reconstruction at Bettsfield with the restroom project? Is that part of that 800,000?
It was intended to, but we ended up with some soil issues below, which
Okay.
ended up using up most of that fund. So you'll see a capital request in all likelihood coming for parking lots
Okay.
at town meeting this year.
Great, thanks.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, Joe, you'll maybe just look into the payment and energy use of the Galvin panel to get back to Councilor Butler's question.
Absolutely. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll give you a live snapshot of today.
And if that's a widget that can be on our website somewhere, I think that's really cool information.
It is. I believe Gas and Light hosts at least the two that we have. I don't know about this one. I haven't gone to their site yet, but it certainly can be something that could be integrated, so you could log in and see that.
Yeah, I think people would like to see that. So if we could do it, and then just thinking that, I think we're going to have some more solar panels with the new buildings we have going up. So maybe we have a solar panel usage page off of our website somewhere.
All right, folks.
Great, thank
Thanks. Good seeing you all.
you. Thank you all for coming in too. We really appreciate this. It is nice to hear about these projects.
Hey everyone, Karen Burke from the Senior Center, Council on Aging. Nice to see you all. So we're always excited to talk about our new space, which we've been fully in since about mid-October. But here's a space of our third floor, and we had our grand opening in May. We were able to do a couple of programs up there before the summer heat kicked in, and we did get some feedback from our participants. Primarily positive, but a couple of things that they noticed is that it was fairly echoey, so they found it hard to understand or articulate some of the instructors' directions or other things. So we submitted for a grant from the Mass Council on Aging, and we received $6,000 in grant money. So we put in the soundproofing panels that you can see up on the walls. The gentleman that did that was the same company that did the Galvin. And we've noticed a big difference already in the sound quality in the space. The other comments we got, just with kind of, I wish I had comments, were there's not a bathroom on the third floor, which we hadn't really thought about when we started doing programming. So now we do an educational piece with our participants, just reminding them that there's not a bathroom on the third floor. There are bathrooms on the ground, first and second floor, but just reminding them to go on their way up because there's not necessarily one there. Next slide, please. When we're in the space, it's been a great place to have shows, to do exercise classes. Because of the increased space, it has allowed us to expand the capacity of a couple of our most popular exercise classes, which has been nice. And it's a nice, peaceful space that we can sometimes have things separated more. So we may have a Tai Chi class on the third floor, and then we can still have things going on the first floor, and there's not the noise disruption that we had previously. So it allows you to have quiet events in one area and still have other events in the other area without disrupting each other. We also, on Monday nights, not quiet, we have the rec department's children's theater group, and we love it. We love Mondays. The young kids come in early, but we have 2 different classes of 25 students each that come in and use the space on Monday evenings. So it's been a nice shared space. The rec department has a fencing program there, so it's nice to have the space and be able to use it with the other departments who need space. Here's our VSO, Dave. He is fully settled into the second floor. He's done an amazing job, if you haven't been to his office, decorating it and making the veterans feel really warm and welcome. And the veterans have had all positive feedback about the new space that Dave has and coming to the Senior Center. We love having them. He has this coffee social at the Senior Center as well. The second floor has been a wonderful asset. We have been able to do, the biggest benefit we've noticed is people can stay for longer. Prior to this, we had so many activities going on that your activity finished, you really had to leave because the next activity was starting. This allows people who are participating to linger and visit with each other and just kind of stick around without feeling the need to leave because the next group of people are rolling in. The addition of the classroom and a private meeting space lets us have many things simultaneously. You all know that parking is always an issue, so we do have to be mindful of what programming we plan together. I could fill 2 40-person exercise classes, but I can't because there's not any place for people to park. But we can have simultaneously, we've had a writing group, a Spanish class, Senator Lewis hosting office hours, cards and activities all happening on the same afternoon, and plenty of space for everybody to spread out and feel comfortable with each other. We have the opposite end of Dave's office is the shared space office, and that's primarily where our Shine counselors see people. And with the additional space, the quadruple the amount of people that they saw this year during open enrollment. So the two Shine counselors we have saw 126 seniors and got them enrolled in Medicare plans during that window from October to December. So as I'm sure most of you know, the initial project did not include the funds for air conditioning on the second and third floors. So we have heat, so we're in great shape now. But after our grand opening in May, we promptly had to stop using the space because the summer heat came and we have no air conditioning. Dave had a window unit, or not a window unit, I apologize, a portable unit in his office. So he was able to stay up there throughout the summer, but it was pretty hot to try and do anything else. We pushed it. You saw Elvis a few slides ago. That was in early June, and it was pretty toasty by the time we were done. We were okay, but poor Elvis was pretty hot. So we didn't do a whole lot over the summer. So it's nice to be back in the space in October. We did receive $75,000 in funds from the state, earmarked funds, to look into or to start the air conditioning process. So I've been met with Joe and with his amazing team to get the ball rolling on getting us some air conditioning upstairs. Any questions for me? Councilor Thompson?
Karen, so can anybody use that beautiful auditorium or space on the third floor? I don't know how you refer it to. It's just gorgeous, and you mentioned you've got a children's group in there and the rec department comes through. Can any town use that space with permission and on mutually agreeable time and such?
Yeah, for a town department, if somebody needed if they wanted to use the space for something, absolutely. We have started. I forgot to mention we are trying. We get always feedback about the hours and when we can do things. So we're trying for the first time an evening or 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. yoga class on Tuesday evenings that will use that space. That we're running that, but if another department wanted to have something there, we absolutely would make it work. We do not have evening custodial services, so those are the kinds of things we would just have to work out when they're coming to make sure we can get them access to the building, that the building's locked up and training.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever considered opening that space up to private use with a fee?
Dee and I have talked about that briefly, just in our first introduction meeting, so we haven't had much time to talk further about that. So that's something we could look into for the future. If we have times that we're not needing it, again, it would have to work with Chris and his team because we don't have custodial services outside of our normal open windows. We're not opposed to it. We have done some work so that the office suite can be locked off so that if we were to have outside programming, we could lock up where we store our, where the computers are and we store our things. Mm-hmm. So it is a possibility. We do have some people come in and the school comes in, Beth from the school comes in to do the children's shopping every holiday season. So we do have a couple of things that come in like that. But we are absolutely open to it. We get lots of questions if we would do that.
Yeah.
Councilor Fox?
So I follow your Facebook page, and the events you guys run are fantastic. I'm sometimes really jealous that I can't partake in some of these activities. So thank you so much for all the work you're doing over there.
Yeah, thank you.
Councilor Chines?
I just wanted to say I love seeing the pictures and hearing about the events because I think this was exactly what we envisioned when we talked about, kind of renovating the space and really activating the top 2 stories of the building. So I'm thrilled to see this and thrilled to see that it's being put to good use. Just one quick question around the air conditioning. Do we have a sense as to, from a cost standpoint, is the $75,000 earmark enough? Do we know and this may be more of a question for Mr. Conway, but do we have a sense as to, where the earmark leaves us in terms of any additional outlay that the town would need to make?
Sure. So we believe at this time, the earmark will get us at least one floor, which would be, I call it the second floor. Not where the auditorium space is. And then depending on how competitive the results we get back from putting it out to bid, we may be able to accomplish the second. It's still up in the air whether or not accomplishing the second phase of that will involve a little participation and help from my group. Or if not, we're planning on timing this out so that if God forbid, we do need to supplement this a little bit so we can accomplish both phases. It will be included as a request to the Capital Planning Committee.
Okay.
So just make sure we cover all the bases with that.
Great. Well, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that we can stretch the 75,000.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the work.
So the best that we can.
So I also had a similar question, and just reminding all my colleagues and then all the department heads that are here is soon the legislature will ask us for earmark ideas. And so we usually, we kind of give ideas to you, you talk to your department heads, and then we narrow it down to, 3 to 5 that we send on to Senator Lewis and Reps Lipper, Garabedian, and Wong. And so, we might, if it might be worth asking for another 75 to do another floor. If we're saying that 75,000 did one floor, we could use money to do the other floor. But just a reminder, if there's any projects that you think of, usually under the 150,000 range is, we've been getting a lot of 75,000 lately, 50,000. But if there's anything you can think of, let's share with Dee so we can get that in a proposal.
I honestly feel later on in the meeting we're going to be talking about local aid. And I think the reason our local aid has failed over the last decade is because of earmarks. That everybody's going in and they're making our constituencies happy by 50,000 here, 100,000 there, and that's where the money's going. So I don't know how we can argue in both ways. I think when our legislature's up, you can make a presentation tonight, I believe, John, right?
Town
Oh,
administrator is.
you are, okay. I think there's a conflict there.
Well, local aid's a lot more than our $75,000 for a,
Sure.
right? So we are sending an invitation to our delegation to come to a meeting, likely in February, to talk about the budget. And I had asked Dee to write a letter to, we met the chair of the finance committee, myself, Dee, Jonathan, and the finance department all met last week to talk about that. We're really going to have a structural deficit because of that. So we are putting ourselves on record about that. I don't think it's all earmarks, but yeah, there's a big problem. But I don't think the $75,000 hurts our $1 million deficit that we're going to have. Yeah.
Just 75,000, but the whole.
Yep.
They're going to all of the smaller constituencies, who are our constituents.
Yeah.
And they're giving out these earmarks or these special loans. And this is not, I'm not against the air conditioning. I'm just saying, they're taking money out of one pocket and putting it in the other. And they'd rather go out there and announce to Lake Quantipow and friends of Lake Quantipow how much money they're doing for them. And that's why our local aid has been stagnant, because they love giving it out. You know that the Metropolitan Area Planning Council has averaged 8% increase in the last decade, and that's who we go to for all these planning things that we do and what have you. Now, has our income increased by 8% over the last decade? So they go into these constituencies and they're getting votes, and that's how they're finding how to get the votes, because they're not getting their votes by coming to the town or the local government saying, who's listening to them or who's listening to us and who's going to vote for them because we're asking for something. That's my feelings.
We will
We're just
have.
not getting enough of them. That's the problem.
We will have the delegation here. Hopefully they will come like they did, I think, 2 years ago. So they will come and you can talk to them all about that. But we will be on record about, yeah. And then just the other thing I wanted to add, it is, as Councillor Constance mentioned, it is kind of something that we've talked about is the use of spaces that we have in town and which ones are open to other residents. And so that's a conversation that we will have, including this amazing space, and making sure that we're utilizing the spaces the best that we can so that people in town, we don't have enough meeting spaces for all our committees. And there's got to be a way to set up some places to have like virtual meetings in that building. So I think this is a conversation that we're going to continue to have, and would love to continue the conversation about that building in particular.
Yeah, we would love to. We have a Zoom. We call it the Jumbotron, but we have the Zoom on wheels that we are established as a meeting site. So we're absolutely happy to host. And I did want to share some feedback we got from some of the members of my board, because we want to extend a big thank you to the council, because this project really came from the town council, and we are very grateful to be able to utilize that space. But some of my board members put it really nicely, that they felt like the new space was built for them instead of just a place that they were sent to. They felt that it was designed with the purpose of seniors in mind and utilizing the space. So they were very happy with the space. So a big thank you to all of you.
Yeah, thanks Joe and his team who kind of built that up, which
It was
is
a pleasure.
If anyone saw it beforehand, it was not the prettiest place.
No, they
So,
did amazing work.
Yeah, it looks gorgeous. Sign up for a Tai Chi class if you can.
I'll be down there.
I took a Zumba class there years ago and I loved it. So, and I am not at the age either, but they still let me sign up.
We miss Joe's guys. We say that all the time because they were there so much during the renovation. We're like, oh, we really miss the guys. They're not here anymore.
I might have to sign them up with some Tai Chi. Don't judge if you see the yellow vest getting, the happy clouds and whatnot.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks.
All right, so good evening, everyone. Erin Kokinda. I was just here in September with updates about the EDC funds that have been allocated. So as a reminder, $1 million was allocated for small business and economic development initiatives. Since the time that money was allocated for that purpose, there was a number of programs and initiatives that were created to support your goals that were laid out. This was all through the Economic Development Council, who was able to create these programs with me managing them. As you'll see here, they're all listed. We have the Facade and Sign Program, a digital marketing program, Chamber of Commerce Speaker Series, Marketing and PR campaign, Project Pop-Up, Creative Arts and Special Events, call it CASE grant program, and a downtown market assessment. So the first program I'm going to talk about is the Facade and Sign Program. We have a lot of updates since I was last here in September. We've, in the last quarter, spent around $300,000 in reimbursements to a number of property owners and businesses in town. Here you'll see two examples of projects that were supported with those funds. We have 376 and 378 Main Street. You'll see the whole side of the facade was done over, as well as the front, to kind of all make it uniform. Before, you can't really see it on the top photo, but it wasn't consistent all the way through. There wasn't lighting for one of the tenants, the gooseneck lighting, and then the side as well wasn't that aesthetically pleasing. And so the funds were able to kind of bring some life to that building in our downtown core. The other building there is pretty transformative, but I think the biggest thing to take away from this space is the funds also supported ADA improvements to that space. So as part of this program, you were able to do ADA improvements, whether that be into the doors. You'll see there's a ramp there now, but also they were able to create 3 new storefronts instead of 1 that was there before. So that's pretty transformative along Water Street. And right now you'll drive by and it says it says for lease. So they're looking for new tenants to go there. And so those were 2 projects that over the last quarter that were supported. But altogether in round 1, we had 25 applicants and 20 were funded. Everything from new signage, painting a facade, landscaping, lighting. And when it's all said and done for round 1, the impact is $875,000 with us paying half of that. In September, I did say over $1 million, but invoices came back less, so there was money that was left over. And so the round 1 closed in September, and now we've rolled out round 2. Money was allocated from the EDC to do a second round since it was so popular. And we had 16 applicants, and it will be roughly around $135,000 in payments, so around $300,000 in impact for new facade and sign applicants. So here's the other programs that we ran. And I talk about the facade and sign because it was the biggest chunk of money out of the ARPA funds that were allocated. We did the digital marketing grant program, and $60,000 was allocated for this program. It was designed to assist independently owned brick and mortar retailers, restaurants, and personnel service businesses in Wakefield. It started with a webinar and training program, and then it was a grant as long as your business attended those trainings and you were up to $3,000 to implement those digital marketing. We had 16 applicants, 11 were funded. And as you'll see here, there's Move to Joy. One of our local businesses used the money to redo a facelift to their website, got some photography done as well. And we have about $20,000 left in that pool of money that I'll explain a little bit. And then we have our marketing and PR campaign. We're working with Sperling Interactive. They're working with myself and Jen McDonald to roll out a new PR and marketing campaign, if you will, as a place to live, work, and play, but that's not our tagline, just an easy way to explain it. It's to promote Wakefield's economic development. It's going to include available properties in town, incentives available to our business community, it's going to have a business directory as part of the website, so someone could go there and find businesses in town, as also a place where current residents can go and find things to do in the community. And so we continue to work with them. Project Pop-Up, it initially started with a 600 square foot turnkey retail incubator space at 243 North Ave. $100,000 was budgeted for the consultant up next to manage the program. And all of this money will be spent by the end of the calendar year because we signed a contract with them. The brands and entrepreneurs that go in that space, so it's businesses that are looking to kind of try out their concept, or they have a small business that they haven't tried a brick and mortar yet and want to give it a shot, they just pay $100 a month in rent, and then it's subsidized by subsidized by the cost of the ARPA funds. The program runs in seasons to allow multiple rounds of participants, and the pop-up provides more than just a space. It includes marketing and PR support, events, signage, business education, and membership perks to improve the chances of success for these businesses in hopes that they'll stay in our community and take over some vacant storefronts. At the December 2025 EDC meeting, it was voted that another $56,000 would be allocated to actually expand the program to the vacant storefront that's next to 239 North Ave. I'm sorry, next to 243 North Ave, going to 239 North Ave, and again, just to give more entrepreneurs the opportunity to try their concept. And so that should be rolling out this month. And the downtown market assessment, $25,000 was allocated for this, and it's a data and assessment guide that will help guide the economic development future of their downtown community. It makes recommendations for town programming, and it was conducted by Fine Point Associates and had oversight from the Economic Development Council and my office. It is completed. They did a presentation. The report is now on the website, so feel free to take a look at that. And then the last program I'll talk about is our creative arts and special events, and I'll make another pitch to anyone that's watching. Apply. $100,000 was allocated to support arts, culture, and community events in Wakefield. We've already supported 4 nonprofits for their events and 5 more in the pipeline, so they have applied, but it's a reimbursement as well. And so it's open to all Wakefield-based organizations, businesses, nonprofits, and individuals planning creative arts or special events, and also placemaking arts as well. And so that's where the money has been allocated so far. In Dee's slide up there, it did show we have about $873 that have been committed to the end of the year, and I foresee that money being spent. There's some other programming that is also in the pipeline, so happy to take any questions.
Can you just say that number again? How much have you committed to already?
So $873,196.
Okay.
And some of these programs, we didn't use the full amount. So for Facade Inside Round 1, there were some remaining funds. And so that's why we were able to do another round of the pop-up. So just taking some money that we're not using for some of the programs and doing some other initiatives as well.
But you're on track to using the full $1 million by the end of the year.
Yes, that's the plan. Yes.
Any questions for Erin and the economic development ARPA money? Councillor Tynes.
Just to, so I know on the slide it says we've spent 436,000. We allocated the full million, so we've covered the 463. So the 873 is what the EDC has allocated, of which the 436 has been spent.
So I'm sorry, I should have explained more. So the 873,000 is basically the money that's been spent thus far or committed to the programs.
Okay.
In hopes that, so round one, we know how much was spent of the facade and sign. Round two, I've awarded these folks this amount of money. I think we can, the marketing and PR, market assessment, project pop-up, we all sign contracts with them.
Yep.
So those monies will be spent. And then that includes the digital marketing program, the amount of money that we spent for that program, as well as the Chamber of Commerce Speaker Series. And I think, and the Creative Arts and Special Events.
Okay. So then of the $1 million that we allocated, you have about 127,000 left.
Correct.
That's not spoken for yet, but will be spoken for.
Correct.
Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
There's
I
a
was
lot of
following
moving
the
parts
numbers.
once, you take the remaining balances of some of the programs, moving them around to create new programs. But yes, that's correct.
Okay, awesome, thank you. I have to say, the side, particularly the facade improvements, but all of this has been noticeable. And it's really, I think it's created a nice lift to some of our downtown and commercial areas. I think the money's been, very well spent, very thoughtfully allocated. I love Project Pop-Up. I think it's a great idea. And no, again, similar to the senior center, I feel like this was exactly what we envisioned when we had allocated the money to the Economic Development Council. So appreciate all the work.
Yeah,
that's gone
and they've been
into it.
great to work with coming up with these ideas. And I'm happy that I'm able to manage them and move them forward.
Okay, thank you. Affordable Housing Trust.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Marissa. I'm the senior planner. I'll be presenting on our update for the Affordable Housing Trust Wakefield Renters Assistance Program. The results of this program aren't exactly as tangible, but they do leave a lasting impact. As you know, the program provides award funds of up to $5,000 for applicants who are income eligible and are looking to either move to Wakefield or move within Wakefield. Every recipient of the program has the common sentiment that has been expressed is just how grateful people are to have received even just this amount of money, because it really just takes away an element of stress that is often involved in the moving process as a whole. So any little bit really does help. That said, we are nearing the end of the program. There's about $51,000 left, and those numbers probably are updated even as of this week as we enter into Q1 of 2026. So I will have to keep a close eye on expenditures this quarter, because if our average quarterly spending suggests anything, it's that we might even expend funds by the end of this quarter, if not beginning into next quarter. So by March 31st or maybe somewhere into April. So I'll have to keep a close watch. That way I don't accidentally approve anybody, only to then turn them down because we don't actually have the funds available. The Housing Trust, however, is really keen on sustaining this program beyond the expenditure of all the ARPA funds. We have a meeting coming up this month on the 20th, and we will be discussing funding sources and other strategies that will potentially help us to sustain the program in the long run. You will see probably not either at your next meeting or the meeting after the official Q4 report. The Housing Trust will be voting on that at their meeting on the 20th. And when I am here to report before you again, I will also be reporting back on some of those strategies that we discussed at the upcoming meeting. But as you can see, based on the numbers, the three categories that we are distributing the funds toward are namely rental deposits, and then we are also assisting with deposits for Wakefield Gas and Light, and then we are also paying some movers that get hired to help with the transition as well. So the original appropriation was $200,000. We have $51,063 left. And short and sweet. That's the one program. But I'll take any questions if you guys have them.
And Councillor Tynes?
Short and sweet question. How many people have we helped?
We have helped, this year alone, we have helped 50. I have to go back and look at the numbers from last year. I would say all in all, probably between 55 and 60 people.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Fox?
Was there priority given to current Wakefield residents, or is it mostly to move people into town?
No priority given to existing Wakefield residents. The only, apart from being income eligible, just have to show that you have a place set up here in Wakefield already. So whether you're moving from one to another or you're moving here for the first time. So income eligibility is really the only factor that goes into this program. That and citizenship status in the United States.
Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you. I wanted to thank my team, but I also wanted to thank Tom Walsh, who came as well. He's our emergency management director, and he files the reports on the ARPA grant. So I didn't know if there were any questions about the reporting that I have asked Tom to be here to not only show his face and all the good stuff he does, but hear if there were any questions for him.
So how often do we have to file reports? Tom? I mean, I don't want you to not come up and speak.
We're any NEU that's a non-entitlement unit. That's people that are towns more than metropolitan areas. So we file annually. Our records go from April of, like this year, when I file in April, they'll go from April 1st of 25 to March 31st of 26. And then that'll be the 5th report I'll make to the U.S. Treasury. And then the last and final one will be in April of 27. But we should have expended all of our money by 12/31 of 26. But I've gone through the numbers, and everybody's on board. I don't think we're going to have a problem. We don't want the Treasury to claw back any money from us at this point. And so everything looks good. But that's what I keep track of. So if I found that somebody wasn't spending or there was some holdup, to kind of try to get them to accelerate the process of that.
Great. No, that's great. Thank you so much for doing that. And we don't want them to claw back anything. So I'm guessing maybe, after the end of the fiscal year, so sometime in July or August would be a good time just to get another update of what's exactly left and are we on track with everything. Particularly, the only thing that I just is the bathroom at Vets Field, because that's been postponed for a bit, and so I just want to make sure that gets done. And I know it said the fall, so I don't want that to get further behind. So I think coming back in June or July, not for the whole team, but just Dee, for you to tell us. But that was great. Thank you so much. Like, you just all do such great work, so we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is Chief Scoria up there?
Yes, he's talking to
I'd rather have him go now. Is that okay?
That's perfect.
Okay. Can we invite Chief Scoria in? I don't...
Sorry, I hide out in the hallway.
No, that's what people have been tending to do. There's no game on, though, was there?
No.
They have a game?
Not yet. How is everybody?
Good.
Very good. I'm here to talk about Mr. Thomas, our missing person. There's been some news reports, a lot of chatter on social media, so I thought it was best to come in and just give you some updates on what we know, what we've done, and where we are, and maybe what's next. So Mr. Thomas lives on Murray Street. He left his house shortly before midnight on Friday, December 12th. And when he left behind his wallet and his cell phone. His wife was sleeping at the time he left. She woke up around 3 o'clock in the morning, realized that he had not returned to the house.
So she called us. She was concerned for his well-being. She did not want to report him missing at that time. The officers that responded searched the local area, and they checked with nearby hospitals, and there were no results for that. The next morning at 9:46, the wife came to the station to report Mr. Thomas had still not returned home, and at that time she wished to report him missing. So the patrol shift checked with local hotels, searched the house and property, and began looking for video from businesses and homes in the area. At that time, a request was made for assistance from the NEMLEC K-9 unit and drone unit. These two units respectively spent 4 hours searching. The K-9 searched for a scent in the last area that had been seen, which was on video near the intersection with Tuttle Street and Chestnut Street. He was seen crossing the street there. And to this day, that's the only video that we've been able to find of him anywhere. So the K-9 searched the railroad tracks all the way down to the Reading line. They searched the marshy area and the wooded area off the railroad tracks. They searched around the lake. They also searched the area of Callahan Construction, the basin at the head of the lake. The drone units, they searched the same area by air, and they also did the lake. At that time, the lake was 3/4 covered with ice. The only open area was the middle. There were no breaks in the ice. There were no abnormalities in the ice to indicate that somebody had fallen through and it had frozen over. In theory, if someone had walked out to where the open water was, the ice would have broken where it got thin at the edge of the water, and there was no indication that that had been broken at all. Since the day that Mr. Thomas had been reported missing, our drone pilots have gone out probably every 2 or 3 days, flown over Crystal Lake, Lake Quantapowhat, and other areas. Both lakes are completely frozen over now, so there's really nothing we can do with either body of water until they thaw out. We've searched the wooded areas around Crystal Lake, JJ Round, the cemeteries around the lake. Basically, all the areas around the lake have been searched, and any other wooded areas that we could possibly think of, all with negative results. And I will say I was surprised the other day when we did JJ Round. It was very icy in the woods, and I didn't think we'd see anybody out there. There were a lot of footprints, and there were actually people out there walking around. So I think if he was in a wooded area, somebody would have found him by now. So we've covered the wooded areas. There was a volunteer group of K-9 searchers who came out twice so far, and they have cadaver dogs. It's called the Massachusetts K-9 Search and Response Team. They've done 2 separate searches. The only indication they got was along both the east and west sides of the lake, and the way they described it was that odor could have been coming from anywhere in the lake, not necessarily right there at that particular shoreline. I'm not a dog whisperer. I don't know exactly how it works, but that's the way they explained it. We checked with Uber and Lyft. They did no pickups that night. Detectives have checked homes and businesses for video. Like I said, they only found that one video. There was a train that came through, an outbound train that came through 3 minutes after he was seen on video. No passengers boarded the train that night, and there's no video on the train that indicates anybody getting on. Our detectives have followed up on all leads provided by family, friends, co-workers. They followed up on possible sightings that have been called in. Multiple ground searches have been conducted along the railroad tracks and yards backing up to the tracks between Chestnut and Prospect, which was the last area that he was seen. His cell phone was turned over to us by his wife. We can't search it because it's encrypted from his employer. We've not been informed of any bank activity. And at this point, we've exhausted all our leads, all our tips. We followed up on everything. There's no, because he left his phone behind, there's no electronic footprint. He left behind his ID, so we can't imagine that he traveled on a plane. He has no credit cards, no bank activity. So until some new information comes in, we really have nothing else to follow up on. But besides that, the detectives are still out there every day. They're still knocking on doors. They're still asking businesses and homes if they can see Ring doorbell footage or any surveillance footage. They've done all of North Ave. Most of the businesses on North Ave have very good camera systems. There's nothing there. It's frustrating. It's extremely frustrating because Mr. Thomas just appears to disappear in thin air. And I know it's frustrating for the family. Obviously, it's very taxing on the family, and it's a mental burden for us too, because you want to find these people, and you want to find them alive, and you want to find them well. So we'll just keep pushing and doing whatever we can and keep searching, and hopefully some kind of information pops up that allows us to hopefully find Mr. Thomas alive. Now, take any questions.
Thank you, Councilor Carney.
Is there an age issue here, Chief? An age issue?
Age, so he's 46, I believe. He was dressed for, when he left the house, he had on a winter hat, winter coat, gloves. It was 8 degrees that night. I can't imagine that anybody could walk really far in 8 degrees, especially since we can't find him on video. It's perplexing, to be honest with you.
Councilor Chrisley?
Thank you for the update, Chief. How does this work with surrounding communities since you've done such a thorough search from all these different means within Wakefield? How does that?
So one of the things we do the day that somebody's reported missing is we put out what's called a bolo, be on the lookout, over the intercity radio system, description, clothing, description of the person. It's also put out as a teletype. It's an electronic copy that goes out to everybody. He is listed as a missing person in what's called NCIC. It's a National Crime Index Center.
Okay.
So if somebody were to run his name, they would find that he is a missing person. So what's happened in the past is we've had missing people who have tried to walk across the border into Canada. Their name gets run by Border Patrol, and it comes up as they're a missing person. So if he were to try to leave the country, that would happen. If somebody were to find him, ask him his name, run him by name and date of birth, he would come up as a missing person. We've checked hospitals. There's no record of him being in a hospital. What a loss.
Wow. All right. Thank you.
So, Chief, I know this was getting a lot of media attention, which is why I thought we'd have you come in and just kind of give us the facts of and thank your team for all that they're doing. Is there anything that you want to say to like members of the public? Is there anything that they can do to help?
Absolutely. So Mr. Thomas's picture is on our Facebook page. It's most of the local media outlets, Channel 5, 7, Fox, have all done a report on this, so they can see his picture on any of those news stations if they Google his name. It's Jason Thomas. And please, anybody who has information, please let us know. Give us a call, email us. However, we'll take anonymous tips. We'll take tips by name. It doesn't matter. We just need any information that anybody might have. And if somebody thinks it's something that's not important, it may be, so please call us anyways. Any information will help.
Thank you. Do you need to add anything? No?
No, just
Thank you so
the
much,
chief and his staff.
Chief, for coming in.
Absolutely. So hopefully this helps, and
Yeah.
hopefully somebody saw something and is willing to call. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item
60.
60, I just lost it. MMA fiscal report update.
Okay. So earlier, Jonathan gave you a report from the Fiscal Policy Committee on the MMA's report about the perfect storm. And they have put out a subsequent report with recommendations called Navigating the Storm, Charting a Course Towards Fiscal Stability. So I just wanted to run quickly through, and Jonathan, please jump in if you want as a member of the Fiscal Policy Committee, what some of those recommendations are. So the presentation will review the MMA recommendations and then any Q&A and discussion that you would like to have. So the recommendations covered three major areas. One, restoring adequate and reliable state aid. The second, providing property tax flexibility. And then the third, providing prioritizing key accounts while expanding local revenue options and modernizing municipal practices. So breaking those up into each category. So restoring adequate and reliable state aid. So the report focuses on expanding what's called UGA, unrestricted general government aid. Some of the reports highlighted the fact that UGA is distributed to every city and town. Communities then have the freedom to choose where to allocate the resources, so they can allocate it to public safety, health initiatives, DPW, addressing deferred maintenance, senior center, wherever that the locality sees fit to spend those funds. And you'll see that UGA has not kept pace with inflation since the Great Recession. The Commonwealth has regained its fiscal strength. However, UGA has never returned to its pre-recession course, thus creating a structural hole in the funding. And as of FY 2026, UGA was funded at 2008 levels, and that's without adjusting for inflation. So this is just a chart that talks about as a percentage of local taxes that have been received, what UGA has gone back to cities and towns. And as you can see over time, that has shrunk from pre-Great Recession of 11.5% down to 2024 to 5.4%. So it's an ever-shrinking pot of money. So what does the MMA recommend that we do or be done to address this? They're calling it 351 for 351 cities and towns. They would like UGA to be increased by 351 million, which would be a 26.5 increase over the FY 2026 funding. And MMA purports that this would affirm the Commonwealth's commitment to cities and towns and allow flexibility on the disbursement of UGA funds, which again is in direct control of each locality.
And just a quick note on that.
Please.
For folks doing the math at home, the 26.5% increase would represent about $1 million in incremental UGA to Wakefield. It just happens that we're about 1/351th of the calculation. As you look at, if you looked at the prior slide, the share of the ratio between, sort of where UGA was in terms of founding municipal budgets and what was funded by taxes, this does not get us back to 11.5%. It does make up some significant ground and covers about half of the real loss in purchasing power in UGA since 2008. So if the state is able and willing to move ahead, it certainly would be meaningful, but it does not obviate the entirety of the problem that has been building for the last 20-ish years.
Thank you for expanding on that. The next is property tax flexibility. So the report talks about, and we've talked about this before, the constraints of Proposition 2.5 on localities' ability to raise revenue. There are a few places that local governments can find alternate revenue other than tax property and property taxes. And overrides are a stopgap measure that don't provide long-term and sustainable paths of funding for municipalities. So some of the recommendations coming out of the report: allowing municipalities to have multi-year overrides, so you can phase an override over multiple years, when ballot questions would then set the total dollar amount and the implementation strategy, helping to reduce the tax shock to residents. Another recommendation is to adjust the levy cap. So via a referendum, adjust the levy cap upward beyond the 2.5% and then tie that to some sort of an indicator or an amount that the community would then decide upon. And this could be a permanent or a temporary measure based on what the community desires and votes for in the referendum. Other things that the report talked about: expanding local classification flexibility, so allowing localities to reclassify property based on residential, commercial, and industrial classifications. Delegate flexibility for CIP rate shifts, so potentially allow municipalities larger shifts between the CIP rates and the residential rates in a given year. And again, expand exemptions for targeted populations. So looking at our local option exemption programs for seniors and veterans, which are currently done through means testing exemption policies. And finally, prioritizing key accounts while expanding local revenue options. So emphasizing key accounts and municipal aid programs. So again, Chapter 70 is a very important fund for the town. Fully funding special education circuit breakers, charter mitigation funding, and school transportation accounts is very important. Not necessarily relevant to Wakefield, but looking at rural school aid and funding that adequately. And then payment in lieu of tax programs are pilot programs for state-owned land that is currently exempt from taxation. So these are some ideas to look at some local options for municipalities. And some other local option for municipalities would be raising the meals tax, increasing the hotel tax, looking at local options for an additional surcharge on excise bills, and looking at a real estate transfer fee that's dedicated to affordable housing. Incentivizing regionalization through grants like technical assistant grants and pilot programs, and adopting lasting reforms to legacy costs such as OPEB, which is our health care costs, and pensions. And that is the highlights of the report.
Councillor Chines?
Just another quick point just to add. You see the words flexibility and local options a lot in the report, and one of the things I want to stress is the report, when it talks about things like property tax flexibility, it's not talking about mandating that cities or towns adopt certain things, but rather giving the flexibility for cities and towns to make some more choices around revenue sources than we have today. I think it's one of the themes with the MMA that certainly on the Fiscal Policy Committee we talk a lot about, and I'm sure Dee on the Executive Committee as well, is that in Massachusetts, cities and towns are actually delegated a lot of responsibility to do a lot of things. We're one of the few states where education is pretty much solely done at the local level, let alone, roads and DPW and all of these other things, even police and fire. But the ability that we have to make decisions around, revenue and things like that is actually incredibly constrained in Massachusetts. And so part of the set of the recommendations that are made are really around creating some options, creating some flexibilities that towns could decide whether they're going to use or not. It's not a guarantee that, you'd adopt something else in terms of, a target for Prop 2.5 other than 2.5%, or consider raising a meals tax, but that the flexibility be there that we could consider these things without having to petition the legislature, which is what the pathway is today.
Any questions? Councillor Constance?
So who in Wakefield, or how are we to take some of these recommendations? Who's taking these and grappling with them? Because a lot of what you outlined, my understanding is we already do. And some of it is not necessarily Wakefield related, like pension reform. Good luck with that. So, the original report was tough. This is tough too. Where do we go from here? And who's taking the lead on some of these items that are put forward as ideas? Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so these are actually all things the state needs to enact. And so I think the message for this is call your legislators. And the chair mentioned the letter that we're working on to the delegation. I think we want to articulate that when we have the delegation here. But I think for us as individuals and for members in the community, I think, calling your representatives, calling your senator and saying, this is an issue that, we really need to address. For every dollar in real terms that the state isn't allocating to local aid, that is a dollar that has to come from local sources. And so it affects, basically all of the decisions that we have to make as a council, but also all of the services we're able to offer to our residents.
I guess part what occurs to me as part of the problem with that is the original report pointed out that rural and very urban and suburban, there's conflicting needs, wants, and capabilities. So what if all 351, everybody's pressing their leg? So it doesn't necessarily solve the problem. Hey, state, everybody's raising their hand in the same way, saying, this is what we need.
Well, the 351 is a statewide, so the idea is that they're increasing the local aid budget for every city and town. This would be an investment that would be distributed based on the current ways in which they distribute local aid. And so, well, but it does tie back to population, right. And I mean, there is a formula, at least in local aid, that does make sense. So this isn't as much, the way that local aid is distributed, we as a community can't really kind of lobby for additional local aid just for Wakefield outside of the earmarks that I know Councilor Carney is not wild about. But if the legislature can put in real terms more money into that local aid UGA account, that rising tide does lift all boats in terms of all 351 cities and towns.
And I think that's why that was one of the major recommendations was UGA gives us control of those funds. So if you're a rural, town and you need money for schools, fine, put your UGA towards that. But if you're in a position like Wakefield and there's another priority that we have to fund, then we can choose where we fund those different projects using that money.
And I think similarly, the language around prioritizing key accounts like Chapter 70 and Chapter 90, those are also accounts that benefit all 351 cities and towns and some other kind of combined school districts. And so the idea is if we're making the right investments and allocating the right resources at a state level in those accounts, again, it benefits not just a Wakefield or not just a Boston or a Springfield, but everyone.
Councilor Carney?
This has been going on for decades. Massachusetts puts us in groups. The MWRA district. We're paying for the cleanup of Boston Harbor. And we're paying through our nose for the cleanup of Boston Harbor. The MBTA district, 78 cities and towns. They use that to come up to housing. They're using us as pawns, and then they make rules around what clubs you belong to and what you don't. And I think we all melt. I think as citizens, I'm not suggesting this council, we melt when we're talking to our legislators. We melt because we're all looking for something. We all have special interests. We're looking for them to support us in our special interests. And then from the cities and towns standpoint, where's the public going to hear from us? How did we have at least 4 members of this town council, I should say 3, who don't get the daily item, okay? And the daily items readership is down tremendously in this community. So we're going through the internet, we all have different sectors of the internet we communicate with, and we're not using the same sectors. So how do the people of Wakefield, the citizens in general, collectively, know what we're doing here? So therefore, the legislators are cherry picking here. They're saying, I'm going to get this group, I'm going to get the Friends of Lake Quantipout, and I'm not picking on any of these specific groups, but these who want things to happen. And I understand that. And they're going to them and they're getting their votes. And they're the most popular legislator in the room because all of these community groups love them. But they're beating us down on local aid. And who's speaking on behalf of that? This has been going on for decades, and I'm not sure how we're going to straighten it out. We have a plan here, but I'm not sure. Wakefield gets $1 million out of this.
So the 351 for 351 would basicay increase Wakefield's local aid by about $1 million.
And I appreciate that information. But how about Melrose, Reading? What are they getting? Because somewhere these numbers don't match. Why they're getting more money in certain areas than we are. So it's a very difficult thing to handle. And our legislators are voting on allocating money for things that we aren't having a decision-making process of, for our own communities. They're giving grants and they're giving out money like candy, and we have no say in it. And we're supposed to be managing the community. We're supposed to be speaking for the people of Wakefield, but I'm not sure we are. It's my opinion.
Councilor Butler?
Yeah, and just touching on John's things, look, I mean, we are the least important town to our representatives. To all probably, we might not be the least important to Senator Lewis, but we're down there. And the other two are much more of their votes are driven by other towns. So we're not going to be the #1 earmark piece for them if they want to keep getting elected. And I mean, we could change that, and we could decide that we care as much about a town about demanding accountability from our representatives. But we haven't to date, and I see no reason to think that we will as a town in the future. I think from the state aid portion, I mean, our receipts have grown pretty strong in the last 5 years and even the last 10. especially at the tax levy, you said like, oh, we'd be happy. By the way, over the last 5 years, we've grown at like 5.3% to our tax levy portion. State aid has grown by 5%. Like the state has, kicked in over the last 5. Over the last 10, it's been less. They've done 3.3, and the 2008 is picking like a very high bar. So they're down at 1.9. Since 2008, we've grown, our tax base in town has grown 5.2% a year, which is pretty healthy, strong growth. I mean, I don't know that we need much more flexibility on like local taxes or on property taxes than 5.2. But I would say, yes, to write your legislature, but we can write our legislatures until the cows come home. If they continue to, they've decided to split our town in terms of representation, we're sort of SOL, so to speak, in terms of generating much certainly from our representatives. And, from Senator Lewis we can get some, but we're not going to be his most important constituency. Yeah.
In response to that, we've had growth, but it's been growth of income, more buildings, more taxable property. And that's down the road, that costs us. So it's not a net thing here. It's the fact that, we've grown. Our tax base has grown, and we've benefited from that. And that's the only way we got more money over the 2.5% is the fact that we got more building going. Now all of a sudden this year we're paying the price because of the fact that we had a write-off in the sense of the money we borrowed, and we're going to pay for that this year. I'm worried about this year's budget.
Yeah.
So I think, the reason that Dee and Jonathan gave this update is that we are not the only town worried about it. These solutions are not short-term, easy solutions, and we don't have a lot of say in it. It is a state legislature and governor decision. So we're going to keep on advocating for what we need and be really loud and document what our needs are and what our recommendations are and what works for us. And then I think there is concern as we start the budget cycle, the FY27 budget cycle, which will start at our next meeting. It'll be the first time Dee with Kevin and Liz kind of lead us through this budget cycle. So we're looking forward to that. And I think these concerns, I just want everyone to kind of have the same level of understanding. These aren't problems we've created, but they're the environment that we're living in.
And I think they're the environment that 350 other cities and towns in Massachusetts are living in. And so I think for this, there's the question of, are we appropriately represented based on the fact that, our community is split between, 2 representative districts and so forth. That's a separate question than I think what this report really gets at, which is some of the structural issues that, we, and again, our 350 peer cities and towns in Massachusetts are facing, which is because of the constraints of decreasing local aid relative to inflation, because of the strains of Proposition 2.5%, which has led to, as Councillor Carney mentioned, the fact that the only way our revenue goes by more than 2.5% every year is via new growth, which at some point, will tail off. I mean, we're a built-out suburb. There are only so many places you can go, even if as a community you wanted to grow more in some of those areas. All of those are structural things that affect us and affect other cities and towns. And I think that's what this report is trying to get at. A set of strategies, a set of investments that the state could make that could help ameliorate the situation we're all finding ourselves in. We'll always have to kind of fight for the things that are Wakefield specific. But, we also are part of a larger cohort that's facing a lot of the same challenges that we are.
But none of the suggestions here we can do. We can't do meals tax locally.
This is all asking the state to make changes that would give us and every other city town more flexibility. Yep.
Okay, so I'll touch on that.
Any other just questions or comments? Councillor Fox.
And we're hoping to have all 3 of them here in one meeting.
We are inviting them. We did it a year and a half ago.
I think so.
It was about a year and a half ago. They used to come yearly. the last time they came, it was not a, I don't think they appreciate how they were treated.
That sounds unfortunate. It doesn't sound like this one's going to go very good either.
Yeah, so I think we, I think
Checking my travel schedule.
the council. No, that was not the problem. I think hopefully they will come. I mean, that's part of their job. We are one of their towns, so to come and talk about the budget process and to ask any questions that we have of them. But I will remind everyone, that has not been a problem this year, but to be respectful and just to have conversations in a respectful way.
And I think at the last meeting, things got a little out of hand, and they did.
That's a good way to put it.
The problem is, I think we ought to be thinking ahead of time and speak with one voice. Because that's where I think we lose it. Not to repeat what happened at the last meeting.
Yeah.
Just to speak with one voice. And the fact that this is not right, the way we're being treated. And we all agree on that. And if we all agree on that, then there's no debate amongst, John Connie disagreeing with a representative or what have you. It's all of us feel the same way, that we need to do something to resolve this issue. And I appreciate the fact that, Jonathan, you sort of led the way in this, and now we have Dee working on it. But we have to speak with one voice. And I repeat what I said before. I think when we start asking for handouts, it dips into it, kills the whole thing. Its whole thing is, I'm not going to give Connie what he wants in regards to relief for the state aid, but I'll throw him this bone. And that's the way I honestly feel they think about it. That's my feelings of how we think about it. But if we, as 7 folks here, 7 leaders of the town, speak collectively that we need some help, and that's where we need help, I think that would go further than John Connie getting up and getting on a box and start speaking and getting into some sort of argument of, I don't want to do that. I want us to say, hey, we need help. We don't need to hear about all your other issues. We need you to straighten out something we think is wrong.
Councillor Tides?
I think to that end, I know, again, we've talked about working on this letter, advocating with our delegation. I think it would be great if we had a chance to, maybe review that before the delegation was here, so that we can kind of be on the same page. Absolutely. And have kind of an organized message around it.
Thank you.
I know somebody is running against Representative, or there are 2 people who are running against Representative Wong. Is anybody slated to run against Representative Laper-Garrity?
I haven't heard from
If you were
anyone.
running against Wong at this time, I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, so, sure, we can. I don't know if we need to have them in at all. I think they're going to do the same amount for us regardless of how much we, talk to them. Which is good. They do something. They're mildly helpful, and I know Jonathan has other ideas around that. But
I would give them I would give the 3 of them more credit than that. I think that it's important for us to have a productive partnership and working relationship with our delegation, because again, I go back to the point that I made before around flexibilities. In Massachusetts, the way municipal finance and government works is we are delegated so much responsibility to do things without virtually any responsibility to figure out how we do them or how we pay for them. We're so dependent on the legislature for so much that I think having that partnership and being able to kind of respectfully say, we really need you to do more in this area, or conversely, you've done this for us, which we really appreciate. I think it's important to be able to have that dialogue from my perspective. I think that's how we move forward.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
But every year we have the same dialogue, and it comes back in the same, we're not getting it. Are we?
Everybody also might be getting nothing. They're not much. So that's the other thing. It's
And I do think we got more money for they redid the school formula. So we actually got more money
That
for.
was about $15 million.
Right. So we did, because we talked to Senator Lewis that the formula wasn't working, and that was 2 years ago. We got $15 million. Is that right, Jonathan? So, the conversations help, and when we give them, as Dee says, data, and we give them the data, sometimes it does help. So that did help us. So,
And I've established a monthly call, a monthly Zoom meeting with the delegation. So if there's anything specific that people want me to bring to them, just let me know.
that is great. Thank you. Okay, can we move on from the MMA fiscal update?
Thank you, Dee.
Okay, moving on to item 6E.
Madam Chair, I'm going to make a motion and then ask a question. The motion is to approve the request for a one-day liquor license for Chris DeFeo for January 30, 2026 at the AmeriCall Civic Center.
Second.
Great. Discussion?
My question is, this says it's a fundraiser. Do we have any idea like what this is for? Or like who's going?
I honestly, I don't.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's on the hockey thing.
I think it's
a
hockey or
left, right. I think
soccer.
it's yeah. I think it's hockey. It might
Hockey.
be left, right,
More likely
center
hockey.
for hockey.
Sherry, do you know?
Yes, I do. Thank you. It is for Wakefield high school hockey.
Okay. I don't know if there's a way in the future we could have them include, just, the purpose of the event was just fundraiser. There's, again, no information. Usually we get a little more of that with the applications. It sounds like you have that, Sherry, but...
Well, no, and I didn't, but normally every year that he has applied, that's what he's put. This year he just put fundraiser, but yeah.
And I think I know about it because my kids play hockey.
I was going to say, you'll be there.
But we certainly can.
And I'm
make
pretty sure
there's
that's
enough.
it, but you know.
Okay, any other further discussion? All in favor, say aye. 7-0, thank you. Moving on to item F, appointments.
Madam Chair, on account of the fact that our housing production plan has been accepted by the Commonwealth, I move to disband the Housing Production Plan Advisory Committee.
Second.
Any further discussion? Go ahead.
Just as a reminder, I know our planner was here and left, but I know we're approved through 2030, so just a note to make sure that, we start the process of going through this again in 3 short years in 2029.
And I'd just like to thank everyone that was on that advisory committee for dedicating your time for a great plan. And yes, we will start it up in a couple of years to make a note of that. All in favor, say aye. 7-0, great. Item 2.
Madam Chair, move to appoint Anna Rao and Mark Iafredi to terms on the Housing Trust Board ending October 31, 2027.
Second, for discussion purposes, there's 3 names there. We have a recommendation on someone, or?
Yeah, there was a recommendation from the chair of the Housing Trust Advisory Board to approve Ms. Rao and Mr. Iafredi. Mr. Knoll is on the planning board, and I think the expectation and request would be that he continue to participate in sort of an ex officio capacity as the planning board liaison to the Housing Trust.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. 7-0, thank you. Item 3.
I was going to say,
Sure, I can take this on. I will make a motion, Madam Chair, to appoint Alfred Rosenthal and Robert McGuire to terms appointed to the Economic Development Council to join the Economic Development Council for terms to expire October 31st, 2027.
And I'll second.
Great. Any further discussion? All in.
Well, I'll bring up the fact that there was discussion as to whether both of these members are on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, and that I think puts us with 4 members, at least 4 members of the board, 5.
No, I was going to correct something that you said, yeah. They're not on the board of the chamber, they're members of the chamber.
Oh, they're just members. I thought Rosenthal.
I think one is on the board and one is a member.
Okay. I would just wanted to make sure that we didn't have a majority of the Economic Development Council also be on the board of the Chamber of Commerce, which would seem to be like, I don't want this to become, and I'm not sure if I don't want it to become, but I think it would be untoward if it was the public arm of the Chamber of Commerce as our Economic Development Board, which I'm not sure, maybe that would be good, but I think we should at least have that out there in the open.
Yeah.
I love when you debate yourself.
This is a committee, this is a council where we've had some openings. There's still actually some openings, so if you're interested, please apply. We have two individuals who actually Town Administrator D has met, and they are very interested in joining. And just a reminder to everyone, when you join any board or council or committee in town, including the town council, you have to do an ethics conflict of interest
disclosure
training
and
like
disclosure.
Exam. Yep. It's not quite an exam. I just did it this afternoon. Training, and so if you are on a board that receives money or there's a vote, you do recluse yourself. We've done it here on this council as well. So just wanted to remind everyone of that.
And Economic Development Council does in fact do that for people who sit on that committee and may have an interest in their personal and professional life. They recuse themselves and leave the room. So they're very well versed with that process already.
Any further discussion? Councilor Chrisley?
We did receive an email addressed to the town council expressing concerns that these two additional candidates would kind of skew the focus of the Economic Development Council heavily towards people that have experience with the Chamber of Commerce. It seems, is that if we appoint these two people to the Economic Development Council, how many members are going to be, how many members total, and how many is going to be related to the chamber? Coming from a chamber background.
So can I just make a comment about that? The Chamber of Commerce is a voluntary organization. It's like the Rotary Club. You pay, your business pays $200 to join, and it's just a club in town. I'll say, that's not exactly what it is, but it's a voluntary organization. They don't have any policy-making powers, or they serve a similar function in terms of supporting small businesses in Wakefield, just like the Economic Development Council does. So I know there was a concern raised. I'm the liaison, one of the liaisons, as well as Councilor Butler to the Economic Development Council. And there are people who sit on the council presently whose business interests also are members of the Chamber of Commerce. And it's just been my personal observation that there's no overlap in terms of interest or putting something forward or trying to not put something forward. It's just kind of more of the conversation about how can we, in these two different groups, assist small businesses in our town. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay. Thanks for that. Thanks for that input.
Okay, we have a motion seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
I don't know. I've read the email 3 more times sitting here, and I don't. To have someone on their chair, who's their chair, reach out like this, I find it hard not to go along with what they're saying. At this time, at least, for one of the members. So I guess they'll say no then.
So that's
you can vote no.
That's
I
a
guess
no
it's no
vote?
then, I don't know.
A no vote?
No.
Okay. 6-1. Moving on, item G1.
Madam Chair, move to accept donations in the amount of $645 to the Senior Center from various donors with thanks.
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Carney. All in favor, say aye. Thank you. 7-0. Item 2.
Move to accept donations in the amount of $4,740 from DiBiase Company and Bond Construction with thanks to the Fire Department.
Second.
Seconded Discussion, Counselor Butler.
So DiBiase is the real estate firm. I'm just like they sort of said like what they exactly want to donate there, like saying for purchase of new fire hoses, and like I'm just not sure that we should be accepting like donations of fire equipment from, just. We're all about the conflict of interest. Should we be accepting a donation of fire hoses from a company that might want the fire department to come to their building first if the two buildings are on fire?
You think that could unbelievable?
Do we know?
Would ever come up?
Do we know what the purpose? I mean, how do you know? Do we have that information?
He said.
Oh,
to
okay. I'm
Wakefield
sorry.
Fire
All right.
Department purchasing new fire
It's getting
hoses.
late.
And like, if they were just giving them for $2,200, sure. I mean, I'm not even sure if that's okay. But it just, do we accept many gifts from private companies? I guess we accepted on the library side. It feels a little more unseemly on the public safety side.
I bet you they let them in the library after hours. That's what they're doing.
All right. It's more just I guess we shouldn't discriminate between which of our town and government people get money from various and sundry people.
A lot of times, police or fire or the library, the reason they're getting the donation is because they've done something, and so. They're very, we have a lot of professionals out there that respond to an incident in a building or a fire, what have you, and they're treated decently, and the company wants to make a thank you contribution. I think there's nothing wrong with that.
Okay.
Counselor Cox?
I assume the fire department said maybe they want new hoses. The letter from Bond says this 2,500 support operational needs and continued services. So I don't know for a fact, but I would assume that maybe some of the fire department said they needed hoses, and that's why they specified it versus it's a very specific dollar amount for hoses. So someone must have said, we want hoses, here's what hoses cost, whereas the other one's a more round number. So I don't really see an issue with that. Somebody clearly provided the information to them.
That just feels even worse in a way. Hey, I'd like some new hoses. But
or maybe they Googled how much a hose costs.
I'm just saying.
Can I ask, a couple of meetings ago we had a conversation about the ambulance contract, and you asked what are we getting in return? How is this? I mean, this is a much smaller amount of money that's being talked about, and it is a gift that's free and clear from...
Well, we as a town don't have the option of running our own real estate development company. I guess we could, but like many other towns run their own ambulance service, and they were awarded this contract. They were awarded that contract without actually paying us anything, and then we gave them some, we decided to cut them a deal on the land they purchased. So that's why I was having issues with the ambulance company. This is more just like, I don't have a problem with DiBiase. I don't think anything's wrong there. It's more just, do we have a general problem with this? Like, what would be the level that would be too much if somebody came, the folks that developed the head of the lake, if they said, hey, we'd like to buy the town a fire truck. Is that okay?
Gosh, so I think DiBiase is doing.
Yeah, exactly.
I think DiBiase is involved with the head of the lake development. I think that's where this came from.
Okay.
And if they want somebody to play a truck.
Those are some nice hoses you got there.
I
okay.
mean, that development is part of the development. I mean, the ZBA negotiated, $1 million of inflow improvements plus plus other roadway improvements and so forth. I guess I don't know that $2,400 of hoses
shouldn't buy you anything. Yeah, it's not. No, it's more just a question. Like, it just seemed like a request that I hadn't seen come. It was more a donation that we hadn't seen come through before. It feels like of this nature in the negotiations of stuff. You'd see that all the time. This is just like.
We've gotten them periodically, at least over the years that I've been on the council.
It is a little different. And I think so I'm curious if we could have Chief Purcell come, because I'm curious, are they asking, like, oh, do we need something? Yes, we need something. It costs this much. And so I think when it's coming from businesses in the specific like that, maybe Chief comes and explains it to us that he's had these conversations, so then we're aware. Because I also don't want somebody to send us a letter and make a request of something they don't need, right? That I also just want to be mindful when it's targeted like that, that it is a request that we put out there.
Of course.
So I know a motion was made. Can this be postponed until our next meeting?
I'm fine with it. I'm going to vote along with it. But if it's more raising the question. You said discussion. I want to have the discussion.
That's a
I want to
great.
get everybody out there on the table as to what they believe around this stuff. But yeah, this one feels less good. But
I think we could say when they're kind of targeted for a specific thing, the department head should come and talk and have a conversation with us, and not like the library or the senior center when they're just general. But I think, DPW sometimes gets like specific donations, and I think the department head should come and talk to us about that.
Or just put it in a note. Like,
Yeah.
We don't need to have them sit here for 4 hours of this, but.
We're not going to be 4 hours. Keep it moving.
20 minutes already?
Okay, so we had a motion that was seconded. All in favor, say aye. 7-0. Thank you.
And Madam Chair, finally, move to accept donations in the amount of $820 to the BB Library from various donors with thanks.
Second.
Seconded by Councillor Carney. Any discussion about this? All in favor, say aye. 7-0. A motion to approve our minutes from our December 8th meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Second, great. Any discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Thank you. Any announcements? Councillor Constance.
I wanted to let people know that the Human Rights Commission is having its annual Martin Luther King celebration on Martin Luther King Day, which is this coming Monday, the 19th. It's going to be held in the Galvin Auditorium from 10 o'clock in the morning to 11:30. There's going to be a lot of singing, and a lot of the schools are participating. There's a community service award that's going to be announced. Very exciting. Can't reveal who it is, but I will tell you it's a wonderful member of our community. And the special guest is the Poet Laureate of the City of Boston is coming. So please encourage everybody to come out on Monday and share that celebration. It's going to be great.
Thank you. Any other announcements, Councillor Chines?
Just a couple things coming up. First of all, wanted to mention that the Galvin Middle School is doing their production of Bye Bye Birdie coming up next weekend between the 22nd and 25th. That's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday afternoon. So please be sure to get your tickets for that. They do a great job, and I'm sure that this production will be no exception. I also did want to mention the Scholarship Foundation of Wakefield is having their annual Team Trivia Challenge coming up on January 31st. That's a Saturday starting at 6 p.m. at the Elks. Also a good time for a great cause. My team usually gets beaten by Stacy's team pretty consistently, but I'm hoping we take you down this year. So we'll see, and hope others can join as well.
Councillor Carney?
Yeah,
It's the first time I'm
those of us who marched in the, I won't say I marched, those of us who participated in the Independence Day Parade, most of you marched all the way. I took a ride.
Still counts.
It was an article on the item tonight that Anne Marie Gallivan is retiring as the manager of the farmers market, and since 2019, and I think she's done a great job. And I'm very thankful that she drove me on the parade. But I think that's a really a great feature in the town, and we were proud of that. And she's done a great job. And she's again they've had a plan on who's taking over, so it'll continue. But our appreciation for her efforts.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Sherry, any updates?
No, I'm all set. Thank you.
And D?
I think we're good. We're starting
good?
on budgets, and we'll see everybody in a couple weeks.
We've got lots going on. Okay, item 8, any matters not anticipated for agenda? Okay, for then I will have a motion to adjourn our meeting, and our next regular town council meeting will be Monday, January 26th.
So moved.
Second.
And seconded, all in favor say aye. Aye, 7-0, unanimous. Thank you very much. Adjourning our meeting. See you soon.